This episode is sponsored by May Precision Ag, Kiowa, Kansas. Be sure to contact Jerry May for all your Pioneer seed, grid soil sampling, and custom farming needs. Jeff Rockett, welcome to the podcast. How are you?
I'm good. How are you tonight?
Good.
Good.
Appreciate you taking time to come down and visit. And apologies to the followers. I missed last week. I had a guy lined up and he backed out on me at the last minute. So you have been a name I've had written down for a while to come on here. And partly because the only thing sweeter on those Friday night football games than a victory has been the South Barber Pep Band, which is back for the first time in I don't know how long.
20 years, maybe?
Oh, man. It's been, well, I know this. 3 years ago, I told Dr. Miller we needed to have a community pep band because just the numbers at the school were dwindling for band. And I said, there's enough people around here that can still play that. Put them in the stands, let them go. I said, there's nothing better than a high school band at a high school game. And it only took him 3 years and to hire you to get it done.
During the interview, he mentioned that. He said, we ought to have a community pep band. And I said, that sounds great. And so like the next week, I'm out at the general store dropping some of my mom's stuff off, and Vern, the tuba player we use, who's in his late 60s, approaches me and says, hey, I hear we're going to have a pep band. And so we went from there and just kind of threw it together. And then it's kind of a funny group because you got Vern, who's in his late 60s. You got Chuck Black, who is the post guy in Hartner. And I used to play in the pep band with his cousin, Jay Black, who that boy could squeal on a trumpet like nothing. And so we got us old guys in there. And then we got a bunch of junior high girls for the most part who are just great. I mean, they're really good. Your daughters and Anning, and there's a whole bunch of them. And they really add to it. And then we got Doris Fillmore, and we got Gail McNett, and we got Humphrey. Abby Humphrey. Yeah. She's been announcing in or working for the basketball stuff, so she hasn't been doing basketball. But then we get Jerry May on the drums, and Doug Swanger, and Kevin Hawks, and then I got some junior high drummers that are learning from them, which is kind of fun because these boys want to play the trap set and they have no idea, and I'm a trumpet player.
So. I told my wife at one of them games at the basketball game. One of the games I was at, you guys were playing. I'm like, man, it brings back memories of the 80s. I said, I remember when Doug was in high school. I mean, I was a kid, but watching him play the trap set. And then I think it was Scott Noble.
Yep.
He had the blonde afro, and he'd be in his basketball warm-ups playing during the girls' game.
Oh, yeah. That boy had the biggest trap set in his basement at home. I don't know how Roger and Pat put up with it, but him and Steve played. But yeah, Scott would come up and play because he loved to play trap. He was fun. And that afro, now he's bald as a cue ball. Yeah. But we remember when he got that afro because that was not his natural hairstyle. Trying to shove that thing in a helmet was fun. But yeah, I mean, and we go back to those old songs. Coach Cantrell is a Bethany grad. I'm a Bethany grad. He played at football at Bethany. I played football at Bethany. I sang in the choir at Bethany. And we were chatting one time. He goes, you think you could play the horse? I said, we got the horse. We're working on it. And he goes, that just fires me up. And I said, we'll have the horse for you. And so, yeah, we do the horse at least twice a game just for the coach.
I don't think I've heard it, but it seemed like every high school in the 80s played, is it 25 to 6 to 4 from Chicago at basketball games?
Yep, I'm getting that for next year.
Awesome.
I thought I found Sweet Georgia Brown, but it was a weird version, so I didn't want to do that. So I'm going to have to order the right version or find the right version. I've got a room full of music and no indexing to it at all.
Oh, nice.
So it's just Jeff in a file cabinet after school.
That's nice.
Getting dust up my nose. Yeah.
Well, let's back up just a touch, because even though you are here as a teacher now, you just gave up a long career as an attorney.
I did. I I
And let me add,
yeah.
I think you're the only person I know that gave up a career as an attorney to come back to South Barber to be a teacher.
We've got a couple lawyers out of South Barber, but I'm the only one that came back to teach music too. Yeah, it was a little odd how that happened because I graduated from high school here in 82, and I had a choir scholarship or a vocal scholarship and a football scholarship to Bethany. And so I went up there and I was in the college choir for 4 years. We traveled all over the country. I sang at Lincoln Center, Alice B. Tully Hall. We did tours every year. And then I played football for Ted Kessinger, Dr. Ted. And then after I blew out my knee up there, I wound up coaching for Ted for a year and coaching at the high school for a year. But then went off to law school. I graduated from law school at 25. And I think the median age for entering law students was 27. So I was young getting out and went to practice first at Topeka. And then I took a job with the Justice Department in Wichita doing bankruptcy litigation. And I was there for 15 years. And then I came home for a couple years here and got a job offer back up in Wichita doing more bankruptcy stuff. So I did that for a while. And finally, just kind of, I'd been doing it for like 40 years. I was like, okay, let's do something different. I remember I turned 50 and I got my 25-year certificate from the state bar. And I thought, oh, geez Louise. And so I was general counsel for a manufacturing company, Great Bend, for 12 years. And they started going through some changes and the owner was getting sick. And as a matter of fact, he just died this week. But I left, and we were talking before, I went and became a probation officer for a year in Great Bend. That was an experience. And but then my mom, she's 82, and she does quite well, but she's still 82, and I worry about her. And my brother's in Huntsville, Alabama now. So my friend Sherry and I, we decided we'd move down here and be with mom and help her. And she doesn't need a whole lot of help right now, but and I'm thinking, well, what am I going to do for a career? I got to do something. And they said, well, they need a music teacher. And I said, well, my bachelor's in history, political science, and they're like, yeah, but you were a vocal major for 2 years and you were in state choir and you know how to sing, you played the trumpet. So I went and talked to Dr. Miller, and the rest was, I guess, history. So I wound up, I'm now teaching kindergarten through 12th grade, vocal and band.
That's awesome.
So,
Well, and I'm just going to say, I haven't been to all of them, but what I've heard from the band, and you had a group of kids sing the national anthem a while back at a basketball game. Great job. I mean,
well, thank you.
The improvement is light years, in my opinion. Not to knock anybody before you, but you've taken them to another level.
Well, thank you.
And that's great. I was actually at the school board meeting just as an observer when I looked at the agenda and seen your name on it to get hired, and I thought, surely not. I actually sent a picture of it to a guy, and they said, no. So now you graduated in 82.
Yep.
And is that Tom Starks and them? That was a whale of a football team that year.
Yes, we made it all the way to sub-state, lost to Little River 28-14. I'll remember the score. Actually, I played college ball with a couple boys from Little River after that. Pat Wimpy's a good guy, even though he whipped our butts that night. Yeah, Tom Stark was on that team, and Dan Rourke, and Scott Noble, Kelly Fry, Brock Thurman, Matt Goodnow.
Yeah.
My brother, Greg, I was a defensive tackle. He was the end right next to me.
That's awesome.
Chris Patterson in the middle. So we had a really, really good team that year. We wound up with some injuries there against Little River, had some guys around, and I think that kind of did it in for us right there. But
I still remember they had the entire grade school go up to the high school, and we formed like a river singing. I think it was Row, Row, Row Your Boat or something. And we had like little Indian headgears on, and then we got to watch the team get on the big bus and head out. I mean, that was a big deal.
I remember that because it was like a kid in a chieftain hat, feather war bonnet, fake one. And you did the river thing, and they're saying, we're a little river. And the guy said, well, I'm a big chieftain, and pushed him, and everybody fell down. I hadn't thought about that in 45 years, but oh my God, yeah.
Yeah. And that would have been, Coach Renfro's last season
Yeah,
here, wasn't it?
It was, and he just passed away a couple years ago. He, I put something on my Facebook page one time, and this actually came from Noble. There's a picture of us seniors with Coach at the end of the that we took, and there were 7 of us. And so Scott said, "Well, look, it's Renfro and the Magnificent Seven." And so I put that on the Facebook after Coach Renfro passed. He was a good man. He taught me a lot. He taught me how to mix bleach and iron my shirts, not just football. I mean,
Yeah.
he was a wealth of information, and we stayed in touch forever. I saw him not too long before he passed away, and good guy.
On Facebook every year about the start of the school year, he would say something positive. I think maybe the last school he was at was maybe Northwest or something like that, somewhere in Wichita.
Heights.
Or Heights.
It was Heights.
And he'd say, give something like, "Hey, Heights teachers, good luck this year, and be a positive." It was always something really positive and encouraging to him. And the thing I really remember is he went to Douglas and came back the next year and kicked South Barber's butts.
Yeah, my brother, and I'm sure your brother, were really happy about that one, with Renfro coming back and kicking us around. Yeah, he had Douglas playing some ball.
What do you think? I mean, looking back then and then looking at now, how do you think, Kiowa or the South Barber area, even Partner or Hazleton, how do you think it's changed?
Yeah, it's the same, but it's different. It's so funny because you look around, the names are the same. People I grew up with, some of them are still around. What kills me is just how small it's. When that school was built up there, I'm a Hartner boy, so they built the school in Kiowa, and we're like, "Oh, okay." Well, we had the junior high in Hartner. We were happy about that, but that was going to be a 3A high school. I had a class of 26, 27 kids, and we were the smallest class to ever come out of there at that time. And like Mark Watts, who graduated, years before me, his class was like 45 kids, 50 kids. I don't know what. I don't know what the big difference is between what the families were then versus what they are now. Why we don't have the numbers we did, and that's shocking to me. I look, my mom graduated from Hartner High School with a class of 6, and we've got some classes that weren't much bigger than that. And I think, wow, they consolidated because of that. And this is personal too. I don't want to go to medicine. Back when I played football, we didn't. Us in medicine, that was a dogfight. But I lost 7-6 my senior year, by the way. But I don't know. I don't know what's changed that we don't have all those families around and like we used to.
I shared. I can't remember if it was on this podcast or not. If I look back, the reason my family moved to Kiowa back in the early 70s, my parents' occupations, they're no longer here. My mom worked at Aukenball. Now, there is still a Chevrolet dealership. My dad sold cars for Bill Hurst, but where Bill Hurst Chevrolet is, it's not even there anymore. But I try to share with my kids. They have no conception of it. I said, man, when I was a kid, this building we're in was a John Deere dealership.
Huge dealership.
Yeah. And then you had Humphrey's dealership out there. So there were 3 implement dealerships. I think one was just, it was on this side of the state line. I think you had 2 car dealerships.
Yeah. I know which one dealership you're talking about down south. Greg Thurman's got the building.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was another implement dealer. Yeah, he had car dealerships. You had the different restaurants. When I was real young in Hartner, now here's something for you. I was the last baby born at Aukenbach in 1964. So, but you look at those brick homes in Hartner, those nice brick homes they got. Those are all the doctors' houses.
Really?
Yeah, that's why they had those nice houses. And there was a movie theater, and there was like 3 restaurants and 3 filling stations. At one point, 2 grocery stores, 2 banks. Hartner. It doesn't have much left,
No.
and And I hate to think that happens to Kiowa too. When my mom was growing up, it's kind of funny to talk to her about it because her being a Hartner girl, she's cousins with Clyde O'Rourke, Danny's mom. And they get together and they have lunch and stuff and they'll talk. And Clyde will say, well, you know so-and-so. And Mom said, no, nowhere. He goes, oh, you know, they live out east of Kiowa. And Mom says, yeah. When Mom was a girl in Hartner, they went to Alva.
Oh,
They didn't do much stuff in Kiowa. And so she knows Alva people a lot more than she knows Kiowa people.
that's interesting. I never knew that.
Yeah. And I always thought that was odd too, because I was supposed to go to Capron. They closed that school the year I was supposed to start. Okay, we can go to Burlington, Hartner, or Alva. Well, Hartner's 5 miles from my house. I grew up across the state line in Oklahoma. And we'll go to Hartner. It's closer. I was the only kindergartner, so they put me on a station wagon and sent me to Kiowa.
Wow.
And then I had first, second, third grade at Hartner. Third grade, I was the only one. So then we consolidated, and South Barber ever since.
Yep. Wow, that's awesome. Well, I mean, that's
No,
very interesting. I know
when you said your mom worked at Alma, I was like,
yeah,
oh, I hadn't even thought about that forever.
yeah. And it never ceases to amaze me. It must be when a new set of parents cycles into a school, we still have to tell the story every year of why we're at a junior high game. And they're like, how come your junior high is blue and gold in the tornadoes?
Tornadoes.
And so we tell them the story.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, I had a guy at a volleyball tournament in Greensburg. Is the first one we went to in junior high this year. Not for sure if he was from St. John or where he was from. He randomly grabbed me because he seen I was sitting with the South Barber folks. And he says, I thought South Barber was black and gold in the Chieftains. And so I explained it to him and he went, oh, thank God. I thought you guys had went the cancel culture or whatever and got rid of the Chieftains. I went, no, that's not the case.
I heard a story one time that Hartner wasn't originally the Tornadoes.
Well, weren't they named that because a tornado come through?
Tornado, 28 or whatever like that? I mean, it took out most of the town, but my understanding is they were the Blue and Gold Tigers prior to that.
Really?
And then they changed the name to Tornado or something like that.
Yeah, so I didn't know that.
That's just a story I heard. I could be wrong, but I don't know there are many more older timers that can tell me or not.
Well, when you talk about, we don't have as many people. Just in my lifetime in Barber County, I'm 52 years old. So in the last 52 years, we've seen a 40% reduction in our population.
Is that how big it is? Really?
40%.
Wow.
Yep. I gave a presentation on that and then some agriculture stats and this stuff has happened right in front of us, but until I actually read it, it didn't sink in that, the number of cattle has went down from like 90 something thousand to 50,000, but that's kind of debatable because the size of cattle we run now,
right.
The pounds may be the same. We used to have 5,000 hogs in the county. Now there's no reportable hogs. There was 1,200 head of sheep. Now I think there's 100, and we had commercial dairy, and now we have none. And some of that's a casualty of like vertical integration in agriculture.
Right.
But you look across the board, and it's like that's happened in my lifetime, and it doesn't sink in until you actually look at them numbers, and it's like, whoa.
I hadn't even thought about that because Graveses, who lived, they're a Hartner family.
Mm-hmm.
Austin's kids go to the grade school now, and his dad's still here around, and I played football with his uncle Leo. They raised sheep. Billy Max Graves on the south side of town and south side of Hartner, where Rhodeses live. That was a dairy farm. So you're absolutely right.
Yeah. I
hadn't thought about that, but we raised Black Angus. But our family doesn't farm anymore. Medicine Lodge has even gotten much.
Yeah. I was going to say up until it was in the late 90s, I was talking to a guy, he's a coach up in Pratt now, and he said, I think he graduated 90 something in his class back then. They're not even close to that now. No. And they've had a little bit of a resurgence because they dropped down to 8-man football for a while, and now they've went back to 11-man, but they're on the bottom end of that, playing Wichita Independent and
Yeah.
Trinity and all them. And so it's about a month ago in the Jip Hill premiere in the Days of Yore, they had a little write up, and I think it was 30 years ago that week. And Medicine Lodge had beat, I think it was Arc City in a basketball game. And I'm like, they wouldn't even schedule them now.
No. My freshman year at South Barber, we played Mays.
Really?
Now, Mays was much smaller,
Yeah.
and we were bigger. We beat them tar out of them, too. But, yeah, we played Mays my freshman. I was in a wheelchair sitting on the sideline because I had my knee blown out. But, but we played Garden Plain and Conway Springs and Cheney and Andover. I remember playing basketball at home against Andover. I think Rose Hill was on our schedule. So, yeah, it's just a totally different animal than what it used to be.
Yeah, I always think back anytime I go into Napa, I'm like, I still remember that when this was a grocery store. I still remember asking the lady at the cash register if she would donate to the swim-a-thon, and now it's the Napa store.
And Randy Blunk had his pharmacy.
Yes. Yep. Well, I was Dale Lonker is a banker in Medicine Lodge, and we do some stuff with the Cattlemen's Association. So I was over visiting with him a couple of days ago, and he had a picture up on the mantle in his office. And I said, "What is that picture?" And he said, he rattles off who all it is. And the gist of it was there was 3 guys from Medicine Lodge, one including his dad, and then the little kid in the picture was Dale. And he said, that picture's at the Kiowa sale barn when they had the Barber County, Comanche County bull sale.
Whoa.
Yeah.
I remember the old sale barn because it was like when you're a little kid, you walk into a place like that. That was a palace. Big stairs going up and the smell of the leather and the black leather furniture. And I remember my grandpa would take me over there for sale day and don't move. I'd have to sit there on my hands. Oh, Emery Thurman would sit there with his pipe. And if he wanted a bid, he'd just point his pipe. That was it. Bob Sterling and and off we go. But I miss the old sale barn. That smell, that feel,
Well, and wasn't Boots? Was it Boots and Britches?
Boots and
the
Britches
Western
that
store
came in there, and then the ranch house started because of that, and it was a whole big little area out there with all that going on.
Yeah, well, and you look at Medicine Lodge; they don't even have their sale barn anymore, and they can't reopen that one because it was grandfathered in. It's in town, so if somebody wanted to do one, they have to build it far outside the city limits
you thought about that
because of the state statute.
Turn on the matter there, right there, but
and
it'd be weird.
And you think about it, my dad said back when he was selling cars, it was a different day and age, and that this will be hard for people to wrap their head around that are younger. You'll understand it completely. and
I've got 10 years on you. So
but he said it was nothing to sell 4 or 5 cars at the sale barn on sale day.
Oh,
he may sell one on a trade-in, turned around and sold the trade-in to another guy right there at the barn. He said it was nothing to do that.
That's crazy, but I could see it. That place was full.
Yeah.
It just, the parking lot was overflowing.
Yeah.
It was crazy, the number of trucks, trailers, and cars. And I see those old farmers pull up in their caddies and their Lincolns and stuff. But yeah, those were the days. I mean, it's funny to think back to that because it has changed. Everything has changed.
I think in a way, though, me and my wife were talking the other day, maybe we are in an uptick. We kind of drew some comparisons. I told her, I said, when we were kids, like everybody in that grade school, all those teachers, if they weren't from here, came here and stayed here, raised their families. They're still here today. Some of them were from here. And we started going through the grade school teachers, didn't really go through the high school that much. But there's some similarities there with some younger teachers that either grew up here or married somebody from here and are starting to make a career at the grade school.
And those grade school classes are a little bit bigger.
Yeah.
You got the 16s number in a class. You got a 15. You got, they're picking up. We got 4, 5 new kids in the last 3 weeks.
So my twins are in the 8th grade. When they was in kindergarten,
there
was 30 in that class.
Are you serious?
So part of the 8th graders all of them were actually in the freshman class now.
Okay.
And there's there's probably 8 or 10 of them, 8 or 10 of us, me
Mhm.
and some other families that our kids' birthdays, they could go either way. They
Okay.
could be a young kid in the class above or an older kid in the class below. And we thought with that many kids, why don't we hold them back? Because the next class didn't have as many. And so we all just held them back in
Spread the
kindergarten.
wealth a little bit.
Connie Rooks was like, they're fine, they're fine. We're like, now we're going to bring them back,
Mhm.
and get a little bit more attention on them and let them roll that route. But yeah, there was 30 something in that class, and there's nowhere near that now. Maybe
No,
half
but
of it.
yeah, I mean, that's a good sized class, and that is a good class. That 8th grade class up at South Barber is a
Yeah.
good bunch of kids.
Yeah.
They really are. And like I said, with the pep band, they're great. We're working on some stuff in the band class. I got to grow my choir up there. I've only got like 6 kids in my junior high choir, so I need to grow that. But we're working on that. I mean, that's not a 1-year fix. We're just going to take our time and build it, get better.
Well, so so the scheduling's kind of crazy up there is what I've been told. And kids are really forced to pick and choose more now than they ever had.
Yep.
Um,
We have to choose between band or choir.
yeah.
You can't do
So,
both this year.
yeah.
And I want to change that because, not everybody can sing, but some people can play instruments. Not everybody can play an instrument. Some people can sing. Some people do both. When I was in high school, once again, we'll go back to the old days. Um, we had all the football players in the band and most of them in the choir. A guy a year ahead of me, Dan Gillig.
Yeah. Oh,
And
yeah.
everybody knows Dan. 2-time All-State football player, parade All-American football player, 2-time All-State choir. I was 2-time All-State choir, All-State football. You had George Beck, you had Tom Stark. Tom Stark played trumpet,
Really?
Yeah. I was telling one of the girls about him the other day because they were like, "Oh, my braces are killing my inner lip." And I said, "Oh, my cousin Tommy used to have to put wax on his braces so it wouldn't tear up his lip." Leo Graves played trombone. I mean, had a whole bunch of football players singing and playing instruments and in the choir too. I heard a story once when I was in college. I met a girl he was at Sterling College. I was at Bethany, and they were playing tennis, and we met. So we went on a date, and we were chatting, and she goes, "Now, where'd you grow up?" And I said, "I grew up in Kiowa." She goes, "Oh, you're a South Barber boy." I was like, "Yeah." I said, "Where are you from?" She goes, "I'm from Mineola." And we never played Mineola. I mean, I knew where Mineola was, and I said, "Oh, well," and she goes, "Oh, yeah, we remember you South Barber boys. You guys have come into District 5 choir wearing your letter jackets, all black and gold, and those letters and patches." And we just thought, "Oh, South Barber boys." I thought, that's hilarious.
Yeah.
That's not how we saw ourselves at all. But
Does anybody even wear leather jackets
I
anymore?
saw one girl with it was a boy style letter jacket, and she just had it on, and I said, "That's great." She goes, "Yeah, I want to bring them back."
That is awesome.
So I'm hoping they come back. I've still got mine
I
hanging
don't,
up in my closet.
I remember going to grade school. I was a Pittsburgh Steelers fan for a long
That's too
time,
bad.
and it's only because they were black and gold. My mom would
Oh.
buy me the jacket, take the Steelers emblem off of it, and then I'd walk. I mean, because I don't know if it's the same now, but like when I was younger, those high school guys you revered them.
Yeah.
I mean, you want to be like them, so you had your little leather jacket.
I wanted to
on.
be Mark Watts.
Yeah.
I mean, that was
Yeah.
Jim Hartzell. There were some guys up there that you just, thought they were great.
Yeah.
You had the Hitchcock boys playing football. I mean, it was good time. We had junior high letter jackets.
Yeah.
The old blue and gold letter jackets.
You talk about the Hitchcock boys. Rick still has the record for the 100.
Does he really?
Yeah, and I always tell him, heck, he was only smoking a pack of cigarettes a day back then.
I saw Mark Watts still had the shot put record.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, there's some old timers there. Mark's makes me look young.
So I took a group of 4-H kids to Topeka a couple weeks ago for a citizenship in action, and on the way home, we stopped by Osage City to see
My nephew lives in Osage City.
Well, my wife's uncle is there,
Hey.
and old Kent. Harbaugh.
Oh,
If
yeah.
we stopped in to see him and visit.
Oh, my God. I'm going to
Yeah.
tell Noah that so he can bump into him
And
sometime.
I told Callan Core was with us, and I
Mhm.
told Callan, I said, now don't get shocked. I said, what you're fixing to see is the 1975 half-mile state champion and still the South Barber record holder. But don't get shocked. He doesn't look like that anymore. And Callan's like, no, he doesn't.
It changes. It changes. Everything moves down. And, you know, I told somebody I was the 220-yard dash champion in 7th grade. They looked at me like, you're kidding. I said, well, I was this tall and weighed 170 pounds. So, yeah, I could do it then. Things do change. Ken Harbaugh, I hadn't thought about that name in a while either.
Yeah. Well, and think about during that time when you was in school, you know, Lonnie Cruz was coaching basketball.
Yeah.
And then he leaves here and goes to Sterling. And if I remember right, I think he is the winningest college or maybe the winningest basketball coach in Kansas history.
I think he is. And I ran into him actually once up there when I was at Bethany. We played Sterling, and he was coaching the women's team, and he had them just playing lights out basketball. Mr. Cruz, as I still call him, he was a great teacher. He was a great coach. I hated it when he left. I didn't play basketball. I was horrible. I'm right-eyed and left-handed, so I can't hit the broadside of a barn with a basketball. I did foul out of every game I ever played in, though. So, but yeah, he went up to Sterling and had quite the career there, and they still revere him. I think they might have named the basketball court after him.
I think so. Yeah. And Crandall followed him up there and helped him some. I bumped into him. He got married and had kids later in life. And so I don't know if you're aware of this, you know, because when we moved back, we just had the twins, but 16 years ahead of that's their older brother and sister.
Okay.
And
I remember hearing that from one of the girls the other day.
Yeah. So when they were in grade school, we was coaching a little county rec league football team, and we had to play Lyon County or Rice County. I think it was Rice County.
That'd be Lions.
Yeah. And they had a little county rec league football team, and we played them one year, and I'll never forget, first play of the game, they run a reverse on us. Now, this is like 5th and 6th grade kids.
Okay.
They run a reverse on us and take it to the house and score. They kick an onside kick. They get it. Second play of the game.
Oh, no.
They run a double reverse, take it to the house and score. Another onside kick. They got it. So it's going to be the third play of the game. They run a triple reverse and score. And I tell the defense, they've shown us all their cards. They ain't got nothing left. Now let's play football.
Exactly.
Well, we come back and we end up beating them.
Ooh.
And when we're shaking hands with kids and stuff, Steve Crandall's kid was on that team.
Oh, really?
We got to visit on the field.
That
I'm like, and he's like, I can't believe they blew this game. And I said, I knew we had you after the third play because you didn't have nothing left. You showed us everything.
It was done at that point. We just had to play football.
Yeah. Matter of fact, the last play of the game is what we wanted on. We had a kid throw a pass over the middle, and as our receiver was coming like this, their defenders collided right in front of him and hit and fell down, and he caught it in stride and took it to the house untouched.
Oh, man.
Yeah, I remember. So in those,
I bet Steve loved that.
Oh, he was
never very competitive.
Yeah, he was. I mean, I'm like, it's just 11 and 12-year-olds, man. It'll be all right. But I look back on that, and I remember the scorekeeper, the guy that would run the scoreboard and announce. He said after that third touchdown to start the game, he said, I thought, well, get ready to flip the automatic switch. It's fixing to go to a running clock real quick.
That's true. That is true. I remember we played Cedric at home my freshman year. Yeah. And they beat us like a rented mule. I mean, they were all over us. And Coach Renfro met the guy at midfield, and it's like, yeah, you to do that, and the coach of Cedric's like, happens. Yeah. Things happen. Yeah. So we went to Cedric the next year, and Dennis Johnson returning kicks, and had that class of what a bunch of athletes that bunch was. I think we returned 2 or 3 kickoff returns on those guys. I think we beat them like 60-0, and their coach was like, well, you didn't have to do that. And Renfro was like, hey, sometimes you just can't stop it, man. So
you think back to those classes, obviously there's a lot more kids. The one thing that I think's, way different from then till now, Because when you got that many more kids, you got an opportunity to have some of those guys that are 6'5", 6'6" in high school.
Mhm.
And, you know, I think about Dennis and then Spriggs
Kurt
and some of
Spriggs. I
them.
was just thinking about that when you
Well,
mentioned
and
it.
even George Beck, I think, if I remember, I think George tried out for the Houston Oilers
Did he really?
at one
I
time.
think you may be right.
You know,
Don't you think? But he's a big boy.
and you think about that now, and not to take away from our kids. I
No.
mean, because we've got some really good athletes, but they're not built 6'5",
No.
220 or 250.
I don't know, though, that I could play six-man football.
Yeah.
I mean, I was an all-state defensive tackle. I could bench 3-something, squat 5-something. I mean, I ran a 4.75 40. I was a pretty good little short fat boy, you know. And I watch those six-man guys, and I'm just like, how do you? I would hate to ref it, you know, let alone.
You know, we had KALV came up for the playoffs, and Ben Buckland told me in the last home playoff game, he goes, I did not expect this. Now, I said, what, defense? And he goes, yeah. He says, those kids are extremely good at open field tackles. You know, and to South Barber's credit, you throw out the first game of the year, I think they was only giving up maybe 7 or 8 points a game.
Yeah.
In a wide open space. I mean, it was pretty impressive.
My pep band didn't know how to finish a game. We'd leave at halftime every game, you know. It was we get to basketball season, they're like, oh, we got to stay. I'm like, yeah, you got to stay. We don't have a
well, when Ben approached me about coming up and doing radio, I said, come up. I said, I'll do play-by-play because I said, the rules are different in 6-man than what you guys have been doing in 8-man and stuff in Oklahoma. I said, the field's even different. I said, I'll handle play-by-play. I'll have you a spotter sheet, and I've got a Dyson Inman would sit up there with us. He had a sheet, and he'd be pointing to who got tackles and whatnot for us. And I told Ben, I said, well, now what's it going to take for you to come up? I said, I know you want to, but you're not going to do it for free. And so he threw out a number, and I said, I can get that in sponsorship money. No problem. I went to selling. I told him, I said, I'm not going to do what you do. I'm going to make up something to get the sponsorships, and you're going to get whatever you wanted and then some. So I sold first down sponsors, red zone sponsors, the game sponsor, the first quarter. I told Matt, I said, do I sell a third and fourth? And he goes, no, probably don't do that. You know, and that game, after about the third touchdown, we started saying, you know, touchdown South Barber. On his way there, he passed the Chieftain locker, you know, or the Kiowa locker first down marker through the Moltz Seed Company red zone and into the Chieftain Oil end zone, you know, because the sponsors weren't getting anything.
You got to throw those names out there at that point.
Yeah, I mean, they just.
We got real good at the school song.
Yeah. Yeah.
About all we had time to play sometimes, some of those games. Yeah,
I loved it because Ben wasn't ready, and I had told him, I said, you got to be careful. He knows Doug Swanger, and I said, Swanger's down there in the corner with a cannon, and I said, the longer the game goes, the louder that thing gets. So I said, be ready. And there was one, he said, my God, it just shook the press box. And I said, yeah, that's Doug.
I didn't know we had a cannon. And then all of a sudden that sucker goes off the first game I'm there. And I'm like, what the heck is that?
Well, none of us did until he retired from reffing high school football. You know, he'd been on the road for years.
Yeah, I reffed with him down in Oklahoma for a year.
Yeah.
And I remember we were out standing freezing our tails off in Forgan one night. And I said, what's that glow? And he goes, that's liberal. And I was like, oh my God, we are out west. But yeah, I was reffing with Jug one time, and we went down to Shattuck, Oklahoma. And I don't know if anybody out there knows much about Shattuck, but they won like 6 state titles in 7 years.
Yeah.
And so I'm thinking these boys are monsters, you know, like the Kenny Potasics and, you know, these big monsters. They weren't. Yeah. They were not, but God, they were coached.
Yeah.
Those guys held on their blocks longer than any team I'd ever seen in my life. And we were done by halftime.
Yeah.
Sharon Mutual went home early.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, and they kept that thing going, and they're still not bad. They're not where they were back then, but you know, they kept that thing going about like Conway Springs, went through some coaches and just kept rolling. And you look at Shattuck and you're like, it's no bigger than the community we're sitting in right now.
I heard down there that people were complaining that they needed to move Shattuck up, you know, get them out of that division because they kept winning too much. And they said, that's the smallest school playing football in Oklahoma.
Yeah.
We can't move them up.
Yeah. I was just talking to a guy from Burlington last week asking how their playoffs were going in basketball. And one of the hot topics in Oklahoma is there's some schools like Enid that have petitioned to go as an independent.
Mm-hmm.
So they don't have to play Bixby or
I wouldn't
Jinx
want to play Bixby
and all
or
of
Jinx,
them
yeah.
because I think Bixby beat them, was it like 91-0 this year? And so they wanted the privilege to schedule who they could. And they were granted that. And he said the other thing that's being talked about, which they've had a judge say it's probably not going to happen because it appears to be unconstitutional, is if you get those dominant teams in a lower class,
Mm-hmm.
after so many years, they're going to automatically move them up to play tougher competition instead of staying in the same like population range.
Right.
And the judge said, I don't think you can do that. That's rather unconstitutional. And I thought of one team that actually did that when I was younger was Morrison, Oklahoma.
Okay.
Just outside of Stillwater, there in the late 80s and into the 90s, they dominated 8-man football in the Class B sector.
Mm-hmm.
And they moved up to 11-man. Turns out they was pretty good at 11-man too. Sometimes you just got towns that are good.
You just got talent. I mean, it seems like South Barber used to go through that. We're really good at basketball for a while, and then we're really good at football for a while. Really good at basketball for a while. You have the Kirk Spriggses out there dunking, and then you get the Dan Gilligs just running over people. And
now, what was Spriggs? Was he like 6'6" or 6'7"?
6'7".
Yeah.
And his cousin played at Medicine Lodge. What was his name? But he was like 6'7". And I remember us having a game at Kiowa, Medicine Lodge versus Kiowa, and it was dunk, 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 just back and forth. Those two just going at it. And then Dennis Johnson would put a long one in. I don't know that we had 3-point lines back then.
Well, and Dennis wasn't no small guy himself.
No, he was a big, strong, strapping young man at the time. And boy, he could shoot the lights out.
Man, those were not knocking today. And maybe it's just the nostalgia of being a kid back then. But, the one thing I will say that's the same, I think the community, even though it's smaller, they are still very, very passionate about South Barber.
Yep.
They're very supportive of it and passionate, even on some years like this where, our boys are going to play in Sub-State Saturday, and one game they look like a team that could win state. The next day they look like a team that couldn't win the league, and I think they're still one game under 500.
I think you're right.
But even that, I mean, the people show up at the games, cheer for them, support them, just probably not as many as we used to have.
But we could fill that gym.
Yeah.
I mean, the other homecoming, boy, that place was rocking that
Yep.
night. And that was a 2-hour girls game.
Yeah.
My band's like, it's 8:00 and we haven't even got to the boys game yet or the crowning. But we can fill that place. The football field. That's a beautiful football field, by the way. That, for a 6-man football team, my junior year, we went and played at Cedarvale.
Oh.
Yeah, we got into a different conference for a year, and then they kicked us out because we won everything. But we went over to Cedarvale, and we were getting ready to take the field, and there's a piece of wire about 3 inches off the ground, and all of us catch our foot on it, and we just go into this big huckleberry patch, and we got stickers all over us. And they were number 1 in the state, we were number 3, and we wound up beating them. Heck of a game. That was the worst football field I've ever been on in my life. It was a goat patch. And, then we come back to this place. We're looking good. Oxford comes in and we lose. We were number 1 in the state for a week. That year, Danny was a senior. But, I've played on some Cunningham, really good football team. That little field is just tiny little thing.
Yep.
And you look at what we've got. We've got a very impressive facility. That stadium, it's a new one now because it blew away a few years ago. But when they put that stadium in at the high school, I was a senior. And until then, we played down at Ellis.
Yeah.
And I've got a picture of my grandfather wearing his Kiowa football sweater at Ellis.
Really?
Because he played over down there too. And
yeah, my first elementary track meets were down there.
On the dirt track?
Yep. And I vaguely remember, I've got the pictures to jog my memory, but me and, there's 3 of the 4 kindergarten attendants are still here. The only one that isn't is Darcy Cantrell, and her family's still here, but that was down there. Janet Cook was the homecoming queen.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I still remember being down there when So me and my wife left for 10 years, and we went to Madison, Kansas for a while.
Yep.
And when we moved up there, they still had a dirt track.
Did they really?
Yep. And my older kids ran on that the first couple of years in elementary. And then the phone company ponied up a bunch of money and they built a really nice stadium for their 8-man football team. And
They
put
were
in
power.
yeah.
Madison was good.
Yeah. And they, man, I tell you what got that thing going again there in the 2000s is there was a guy that had played at Emporia State, but he was from like New York, and he'd went back to New York or New Jersey and had a career as a high school football coach, a very successful career. But he bought property outside of Madison, and he would come back every year and work on that property because he wanted to retire there. When he retired, they approached him about being a guidance counselor and football coach.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, this is a guy that knew Bill Parcells.
Oh,
I think,
gosh.
I can't remember if he coached Parcells' kid or if his kid was on his staff, but he was our neighbor. So we lived 8 miles outside of town, and the only thing that separated us was a little pasture and a creek.
Uh-huh.
And excellent. I mean, excellent guy. I worked at a swing shift back then. I worked for the USDA, and we would do the inspections on the packing house in Emporia. Right. So every 4 weeks I'd be on a day shift, and the next 4 I'd be on a night shift. Ugh. And South Barber, now think about the early 2000s, they had a run of 4 or 5 years where they played for 2 state titles. Madison was on the other side of the state, chipping away at them. And I would talk to Fred and I'd say, hey, I was working night shift this week. Can I watch your game film? I love high school football.
Oh, yeah.
And he every year we was up there, he'd say, I know where you're from. It'll be in your mailbox when the last game of the season, it's over. And every year, the morning after the last game of the year, I'd go to my mailbox and there'd be the game tapes, and he'd let me watch them then.
That's fun.
But he, I don't know if they'll admit it, but he helped scout the St. Paul game when South Barber played St. Paul.
Right.
For the first time they played in a state title game because we played St. Paul. I don't think they were in our league, but we would play them every year. Mm-hmm. And I remember calling Coach Johnson. I said, you're not going to find a more knowledgeable guy than Fred. And they talked, and I mean, Fred could tell you number 34 lines up third from the left on kickoff. He leads them in tackles on the kickoff. He was just a machine.
Knew his game.
Oh man. Yeah. But it was kind of a flashback moving up there. And I'm like, boy, I haven't seen something like this since the late 70s, early 80s.
I when I was at Bethany, I wound up coaching last year there because of knees. And we had an offensive lineman from Tuttle. No, not Tuttle. He was from down around Oklahoma City. Blanchard.
Yeah.
From Blanchard, Oklahoma.
That's right down the road from Tuttle.
His name was B.D. Kennedy. Well, Billy Dwayne Kennedy. And he was a good little offensive guard. And he wound up graduating from Bethany and going to Baylor. And he was the GA for Grant Taft down at Baylor. And I'm in law school at Washburn. And he goes, hey, you want to go over and watch some practices at KU? I said, sure. Being an Oklahoma fan, I thought, yeah. So I actually scouted a little bit of Kansas for Baylor that year. And B.D. Kennedy is now the national American football coach for Sweden.
Really?
He is living in Sweden. He coaches the Swedish national team and then a semi-pro team called Karlstad. And I was talking to BD one time on the phone, and I said, so you speak Swedish? And he's like, yeah. I said, do you do it with a Okie accent? And he goes, yeah, so. But yeah, I mean, it's funny how you have connections like that from Lindsborg.
Yeah.
But,
so where Blanchard is, where I went to high school, was just south of there, 15, 20 miles.
Where'd you go to high school?
Well, don't get too confused. It's called Ellick. Now, people get confused thinking it's Alex because it's spelled A-L-E-X, named after Mr. Alexander, but they call it Ellick down there.
Okay, I'd see A-L-E-X. I never knew it was pronounced
east of
Ellick.
Chickasha.
Okay.
And when I moved down there, I had never been around anything like that. And when you talk about that guy, I mean, we had John, Joe John, Jimmy Jack, Joe Bill, Billy Don. I mean, it's like, yeah. What in the world? And
all I know is BD.
Yeah, and instead of being related to somebody, it was kin to him. You know.
Oh yeah. We had a kid from Tishomingo.
Yeah.
So we had all kinds of Okie boys down there for a while.
Well, that was our big joke about Tishomingo's. They had Murray State College there, a little JUCO.
Yeah.
And so we always said, MIT, Murray and Tishomingo.
Oh, I love that. I love that. I wish I might have to get hold of that guy from Tishomingo and say, hey, guess what I heard?
Yeah. Yeah. So, what has it been like? You had a long career. Was it 40 years as an attorney or in law?
Yeah.
What's it been like stepping away from that and into the public school system in your old high school?
Teaching is not easy. First of all, I mean, and mine's a little bit different too, going from kindergarten to seniors. I have, such a breadth of age and which how do you treat a kindergartner versus how you treat a fourth grader? How do you treat a sixth grader? You got to adjust all of that. I start teaching at 8:30 in the morning, go to 11:30, get lunch till about noon, and then start my high school in the afternoon. So I'm busy all day, but I love it. I love the kids. I used to coach, so I will raise my voice, sit down, be quiet. I try to be good.
I might know a kid that said that a while back, and I said, well, what were you doing? And she told me, and I said, well, you should have listened to him the first time. I mean, my gosh, he made the instructions clear.
Exactly. Sit down. And I coach soccer. I coached my daughter's soccer and my son's soccer teams for like 12 or 15 years. So I got away from football, coached soccer, and started reffing. And, now I'm teaching. And I miss the intellectual challenge that the law could give you. I was primarily bankruptcy and commercial litigation. When I moved down here for a few years, did a few child needed care cases, stuff like that, but nothing, But so I miss that. But I like the other teachers. I like that camaraderie. I like the kids, I really do. I mean, some of them get in a little more trouble than others, and that's sixth grade. Oh boy, something about sixth graders. But they're all good kids, and they all want to sing, and they all enjoy singing. Right now, I've got the grade school. We've got 3 songs memorized. One is English, one is French, one is Swedish. And the kids are like, well, what is that? And I said, it's Swedish. Well, why are we singing Swedish? I said, I went to a Swedish college. So I sang Swedish. So you're going to sing Swedish. I picked out a German one the other day because somebody said, well, we had to sing some German. So, we do everything a cappella. I don't have an accompanist. We've tried to get no. I mean, Miss Bratton can play the heck out of a piano, but she teaches all day.
Oh,
so I can't, I can't drag her out of her class. So I kind of get by with what I can get by with. So we do everything a cappella. They take, well, you can use the tapes and you can use the CDs. Oh, when I do that, but I might. So I now I've got the same problem at the high school. I have to do everything a cappella, and I am not a pianist. My mom is. My mom still teaches piano, not me. But we do what we can do, and we try to get better. And I'm going to try to find a pianist over the summer. Keep looking for that, but it's a challenge. And one of the first things I did when I came back here is this is my home and this is my school, and I'm proud of my school. I taught everybody the school song.
You bet.
And they're like, the school what? And I'm like, the kindergartners, what's a school song? So we learned the school song. Now we know the school high school song and the junior high song. And we sing them. And they love it. They scream it.
That's so important. It teaches them, to care about that. Mm-hmm. And I don't know what your thoughts are, and I don't want to get too controversial or anything. We hear, and sometimes I'll look at it and say, yeah, maybe it is different now from when you were in high school or when I was in high school. Maybe the kids aren't the same, but I don't know if it's that the kids aren't the same as much as the world has changed so much and legalities of schools has changed so much that they can't be like it was. I remember walking home at lunch in grade school, eat lunch at home.
And then come back.
And you then walk back. I lived a block away from the school, and
that's right. You guys did.
Yeah, never thought anything about it. and I can listen. I'm younger, but I remember some of the characters that was your age, and I think the legal drinking age was a little younger back then too.
Or 3.2 beer, yeah.
Yeah, and some of the
But it wasn't high school.
yeah
It was 18 still.
yeah it was, and some of the old things that happened. I'm like, I don't think any of those kids at South Barber's doing anything like
No,
that now.
no.
But I mean, is it has it changed that much?
Yeah,
Do you think?
I think it has. I do think it's the world. Um, and not to be controversial at all, but I could go out in the parking lot at South Barber when I was in school and find 10 trucks with a shotgun in the back window.
Yeah.
We all went hunting, you know. It wasn't a big deal. Nobody grabbed a gun and went in the school.
And there was a chance when you was walking into school, the superintendent might have been out there smoking a cigarette.
Yeah, oh yeah. Paul Nelson, another Bethany guy, by the way. Yeah, I mean, smoking. I was when I first got here, they were like, "Yeah, we have vape sensors now." Like, you have what? Vaping was the problem in the bathroom, not smoking, And at the high school when I was there, and your brother was there, the one parking lot was where everybody went and had beer, and the other south parking lots where they went and had something else. And that's just, I mean, not that anybody approved of it or agreed to it. It just was the way it was. There was a lot laxer. There wasn't security because you weren't worried about the safety.
You talk about security. They just had the junior high dance. Was it Valentine's?
Yeah, I think
weekend,
so. A couple weeks
like
ago,
the 13th. And I walked in there. Me and my dad went in to see the twins and get a picture and see them in their dress. They're doing a breathalyzer on those 6th, 7th, and 8th graders as they came in.
Are you serious?
Said it was school policy, and I'm like, holy moly! Good thing they didn't have that back in the day. Nobody would have been able to go to the dance.
I remember them doing that to my high school kids when my kids were in high school at Mays. Which once again we played Mays, and my son graduated the class of 623. But yeah, I mean, I remember I was shocked by that. Well, you have breathalyzers at the high school dance, and Connor's like, well, yeah. And so they're doing it at the junior high now in this policy. Oh my!
At South Barber,
I get it. I understand. Sometimes policy is a little bit like a shotgun. It kind of gets spread out there, and if it happens at one school, it's going to happen at another school, and you got to keep up with the times, I guess. I don't know. I think our kids are good. I really do. I think back to what was going on when I was in school, and those things at lunch, and the things on a Friday night ball game blowing up from the south, and that smell that came across the field. I don't, that just doesn't seem to happen today. Maybe I'm just being naive, but I don't think so. I just don't think it does.
We won't say the name. People can figure it out, the ones that were around. But the year after you graduated, it had been my brother's senior year.
My brother's senior year.
I think it was homecoming. The opening kickoff got returned for a touchdown, and the young man that ran the touchdown, when he hit the end zone, his helmet's off and he's throwing up, and everybody thought, man, he ran so hard he threw up. No, it's because he had beer in him. He'd been slamming beers before the game.
Oh yeah, we had a player on my senior year. He played much better. He had a few beers before the game. If we had a long road trip, he wasn't quite the player he was when we got out there. But no, it was a different era, different time.
And I can't imagine any of those kids having a couple beers before a 6-man game.
No,
I mean, that thought didn't even enter my mind. But that back then, it wasn't uncommon.
No, it wasn't at all.
We went to the movie the other night, or Saturday night, and that's just one of them things you miss is nobody's on Main Street dragging Main anymore. I think they used to hang out like over here at the corner stop, but I don't know where they hang out now. I don't know if they're looking at their phones or what.
Everything's shut down at 9:00, but
but it makes you, when you leave there, you want to go around the island and go back down by the grade school and flip a U there
and come back down.
I'm like,
every day before school and every day after a game and after school, or then you go down to Alvin, drag the Boulevard.
Yeah,
get in some real trouble. But I was talking about that with my mother the other day. We went to Freedom, to the steakhouse. We hadn't been down there yet, so we went down there, and Terry's at work, so Mom and I just go off to the steakhouse. And I said, you go to Alva, and you'd see South Barber jackets, and you'd see Alva jackets, and you'd see Armand Tacoma jackets.
Oh, yeah.
You'd see Cherokee jackets. You see Winoka jackets. You'd see a Freedom jacket. And that's what was making me think about it, was driving by the Freedom School. I said, you'd just see kids from, Helena Goltry would show up, and Jet Nash would be there on occasion. You just see those letter jackets. You knew where they were from. And, hey, you know so-and-so? Yeah, I know so-and-so. And off you'd go.
And think about this. Armand Tacoma School doesn't exist anymore.
No.
It's Alva. And then you got Jet and Nash. It's consolidated with the others to make Timberlake.
Right.
Freedom hangs on by a thread. And I've always been told, years ago, my mom's sister lived out there and was on the school board. And that was when things were kind of going down. And she said, this school will never close because there's enough old money around here that we won't let it. We're not sending our kids to Alva.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, you look at some of their graduating classes, it may be 2 or 3.
Yeah.
And they're,
and that must be what they're doing. They're just going to keep that money going.
Yeah.
And keep that school up.
And heck, was it Freedom? I don't think they won it, but I think Freedom played for a state championship there in the early 80s in football.
They were a good little team there.
Yeah.
8-man. And it's funny how when I was at South Barber, we were playing 11-man, and we didn't pay much attention to 8-man. Yeah, we're a big 11-man school. And then we moved to 8, now we're at 6. And you're like, wow, we're graduating classes the size that Attica had. And Attica's got more kids than we do now. And how does that happen? How does Kiowa get smaller than Attica and smaller than, Waukeeta doesn't play anymore. We used to play Waukeeta.
Mm-hmm.
I'm hoping you're right. And I think maybe there is something there, that we got some younger families coming back and some people looking at the community and saying, it's town. They've got good academics. We've got great academics at this school. What they've done to the high school with the AVID programs and such, I don't get it all yet because I'm brand new and I'm a music teacher, but it's impressive. It's impressive the way those kids are being taught. And I think that's going to be a draw. And of course, winning always helps bring people in too. If you look at it and you go, oh, wow, those guys are.
Hey, all it takes is a neighboring community for something to go sideways and you can get an influx of kids.
Exactly. Somebody gets mad Medicine or Alva, we're going to get some more kids.
Well, that was, and I haven't looked into it enough, so I may be completely wrong. I've been told that Alva's looking at passing a big bond issue to build a new school because they've got some issues with their old facilities.
I could see that. That school's been around a long time.
Yeah, and the person that was telling me this, like I said, I've not seen this in writing, so I'm just, if this ain't true, don't hold it against me, guys. But they said all the big things in Alva have always been bought by private money. Their sports complexes, the big arenas, and different things. The communities never had to pony up money for a big construction project like this. And what I was told was there's some folks that's not happy about it. And I said, perfect. We're not that far away.
No, we're not.
And we're black and gold. You can come right on up. Don't even have to buy new clothes.
No, you can wear the same socks. You're fine.
And from a distance, the gold bug might look like a chieftain.
That's true.
Logo.
That's true. Gold bugs. That's a wild one. I always thought that was a wild. And to think that there were 2 schools in Kansas that were gold bugs too, Fowler and Kensington. I never knew that one for a long time. But this school system, we've got a beautiful building. We've got a good facility. It's kept well. The football field, the track, the gym, the classrooms, everything's great.
And I'll give them a little plug. South Barber Legacy has done some stuff where they put up the new record boards and the new things in the commons area that gives it those small little things just give it a fresh look.
They do.
And that was so the records, you may find this shocking with your experience in the band room, may have not been well kept through the years. And so when those things got put out there on the old internet, there were some people showed up and was like, that ain't right. And one of them, and I'll say his name because it's all in good fun. And he proved it. Stuart Noble
Oh,
said,
yeah?
I've actually got the record in these hurdles. And then he sent like the newspaper article where he had broke it. And I was at the meeting where they were showing that. And they said, well, according to this, he's got the record by 2 seconds. Is that possible? I said, them Noble boys, all of them were
And
studs.
they were
You
fast.
know, I said, don't doubt that for a second.
No, the
You know,
only person I ever saw outrun a Noble was Todd Moody from Ashland, and he was a state champ. So,
yeah.
but no, I do find it funny. I look at that junior high record board, and there's some girls that want a medley relay, have the record for the medley, which I don't think they even do anymore, do they?
It depends on the track meet.
Okay, because they're from my class.
Well,
Brenda Land and Pam Bohr and Shelley Newton and those girls, you know.
when the twins were in 6th grade, they ran up on the 7th grade team, and they were within that of breaking it at, I think, Caldwell, because we thought they had broke it, and that was 3 6th graders and 1 7th grader on that medley. And then obviously the dynamics changed. One of those girls transferred out, one went to 8th grade, and so you're plugging in new pieces, and they didn't get as close. But it depends on the track meet. Sometimes it's a 4x4, sometimes it's a medley. But that year with those 3 6th graders and the 7th grader running against 7th graders, man, we loved going to every track meet because, I mean, they were little and they were fast, and
it's fun to watch.
Oh, you know, the 7th grader told him, listen, about the time you think you're going to die, you just got to fight through that. You know, they're 11 years old.
When I was at Bethany, I told, who was I? Oh, Lily Scherter, who is signing her letter of intent with Concordia tomorrow. Very congratulations, Lily, for that, because that's fantastic. I was standing in front of our gym at Bethany. We had air conditioning in the lobby. And it's 3 days in August. And so we're all, not wanting to go outside. It's afternoon. And so I'm standing there. I'm wearing a helmet. I got my T-shirt, my shorts on. It's just kind of a walk-through practice in the afternoons. And this man comes walking up to me, and he was wearing a cap and glasses, and a polo, and coaching shorts. You remember those?
Oh, yeah.
Nylon double snap coaching shorts.
Was it were they bike or something like that?
Bike.
Yeah.
You're right. They were bike. He comes walking up to me. And he looks down at my legs, and he looks at me, and he looks down at my legs, and he looks at me, and he goes, how long are your legs? And I said, well, I got like a 30-inch instinct, because I'm all body and no legs. And he's like, come see me after practice. I said, okay. And he walks off, and I look at one of the upperclassmen. I said, who is that? And they said, well, that's Jim Crubb. He's the track coach. Okay. So I went and saw Coach Crubb after practice. And he goes, you want to throw the hammer? I said, what? He goes, well, you got short little legs and you're real stocky. I think you'd barely be a good hammer thrower. My knees couldn't take it. I tried it a couple of times. I was done. But I told Lily that, and she's like, they talked to me about the hammer.
And, we're on the verge of ending basketball season. Hopefully it doesn't end Saturday.
Right.
I want to make that clear in case Coach Cantrell's watching. We want them to continue to play. I really think this group of boys is talented enough to make a run. When they are on, they are a handful.
Were you there the other night when they were hitting those threes against?
I was reading about it in the paper.
Wow.
I had a this week has been a week every night.
You mentioned that.
Now
yeah.
I've had work meetings, and so I'll give the Jip Hill Premier plug. Great coverage of those games in the paper. It came out today, and I was reading about the girls' game on Tuesday and the boys on Monday. And, what a breath of fresh air that is. I don't know if you read that paper, but if you don't, you should. It's only $1 at the grocery store or the corner stop. But they don't just cover the games. They interview the coaches afterwards also.
Nice.
And so they've got quotes from Cantrell and stuff. It's like reading an old sports paper, or sports article.
My scrapbook still got Kiowa News and Alva Review Courier, and
yeah,
can't read them much. They're starting to fade, and turn yellow. But no, I mean, we were down by 7. I'm up there at the band, and we're like, it's moving, and we're like down by 7. I'm like, oh my God. And then these threes just start dropping. And we couldn't hit a free throw to save our lives there for a bit. We were dropping threes all over the place. And Jerry.may and I were joking about that. I said, well, another 3. Thank God for that. Because
I think, they went from being down 7, and then reading the article, it's like next thing you know, they're up nearly 50.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
mean,
it
it was
was
like, wow.
those poor boys from Rolla, they only had 5 on the team then. They were supposed to have 7, we thought, which is still short. You know, you don't have a lot of break, but they had 5 boys and they played Ironman basketball that night, just went all night.
Well, we had to go out there to play them in football. Didn't know if they'd play the game or not.
Oh,
We beat them 71-0 at halftime, and that was Cantrell trying to play everybody he could. And I mean, sometimes the wheels just fall off.
yeah, you
And
can't.
it doesn't matter how hard you try not to score, you're still scoring.
Yeah, Renfro ran it up on Sedgwick.
Yeah.
But Cantrell, no. I mean, Coach Cantrell, he wouldn't do that, and there was no need to. You know, and that's
Now, I will share this story about Coach Cantrell. And he knows this because we joke about it a lot. And they've kind of got the upper hand on us now since this. But one of the last years we played 8-man football, I think we only played it one more year after this. We were rocking and rolling really well. That's the one thing. I mean, I think in Matt's 30 or 31 years as a coach, whether an assistant or a head, there's only been 4 losing seasons.
Wow.
During that time. And that year, we ended up getting 2 injuries towards the end of the season, but we were still good. But those 2 kids made a difference on the team. We go to Stafford. They're undefeated, a once-in-a-lifetime team for Stafford.
I was going to say Stafford doesn't play like that.
And even with them fully staffed and us not, it's still a dogfight of a game. And Stafford ends up pulling it out, and they lit off a fireworks display while the teams were shaking hands on the field, and Matt turned and looked. And he told his boys, he said, get a good look at this because they're coming to our house next year.
Uh-huh.
Get a good look at it. Well, he was coaching junior high basketball. And I hope I don't get him in trouble with this. He can deny it. Later that year, junior high basketball, I'm at an extension board meeting, and my phone's blowing up to the point that I'm trying to shut it off. I get out of the meeting, I turn it on, and it's a person from Stafford. Well, there's a lot of people from Stafford were texting and calling, and I called one and said, what's going on? They said, that Matt Cantrell's a jerk. I'm like, what do you mean? They said, he had our junior high boys down by 30 and didn't pull his starters till like 2 minutes left in the game. And I'm like, well, I bet you didn't shoot fireworks off tonight.
Ashland brought their victory bell here one time when I was playing. I was like, no, they're not going to ring that son of a gun here. And Todd Moody wound up blowing out his knee that night, and we beat him and went on to play Little River the next week in the sub-state. But, yeah, you don't.
Well, and I say they've kind of got so Stafford beat our junior high girls in the league championship in volleyball.
Mm-hmm.
And then we didn't play them in the basketball tournament, but they won the league championship in basketball. And both times when their junior high bus pulled into town, it was to a fireworks display.
Are you serious?
I'm not kidding a bit. And so, you're good.
I just spilled my water.
My nephew was injured, but was on that team that got blown out in junior high. And last year, my younger sister, which a lot of people around here wouldn't remember, she was pretty little when folks got divorced and we moved. She coaches the Stafford Junior High girls.
Oh, really?
They've won back-to-back league championships, and last year we had to play them in the first round of the league tournament. And I reminded her, I said, your nieces are on that other team. That ain't Matt Cantrell over there coaching. And she showed no mercy. I mean, she beat the dog out of us. And we made a little video afterwards. I said, you got anything you want to tell Matt? She goes, we just kicked your butts. And so we sent it to him. And he was a good sport and laughed about it.
As a coach, you do things. I coached my daughters and my son's soccer teams. I've got actually a Class E coaching soccer license and a Class F ref license soccer. You look at me and you don't think that, but I do. I actually do. And my girls team went undefeated for like 4 years. We won a couple of Governor's Cups. We were really good. And the boys were really competitive. And well, when the boys started, we used to play this little 3v3 indoor thing over at Sluggers. And they had this girls team in there, and they just beat us like crazy. And they were having fun kicking our boys in the private parts and knocking them down. And little girls are just so much more athletic than little boys anyway. And it was pretty bad. And they ran up the score on us pretty good. And Well, the next year, that little girls team moved up a division, and my big girls team were in that same division, and we beat them 15-0 in soccer. And I remember their parents says, "Well, why aren't you pulling back?" I said, "I remember you guys from last year in that 3v3 boy thing. Ain't pulling back at all."
Oh man. Well, I told some people, our little junior high boys team, a lot of them were sixth graders, and they weren't but about
No.
yay tall. But you talk about some guts. Those little ones had some try, and they took it on the chin, mostly because everybody was 2 foot taller
Oh,
than
yeah.
them. And I told some folks, I said, just wait. I said, it's going to come around. I mean, you look at these boys as parents.
They're athletes.
They're fixing to hit a growth spurt.
Yeah.
So they're 11 years old playing against 13, 14-year-olds out here.
You can tell by the way they dribble and take the ball and go at it. I mean,
Yep.
they will get knocked down and get back up and keep playing. And I love watching stuff.
Oh, man. So we probably ought to wrap this
Oh,
up.
okay.
I didn't pay attention to how long we've been going, and I can't see that far on the timer. But I want to throw this out there, and I don't want it to be uncomfortable or nothing, but there's a little group called South Barber Legacy now that they've came on here and done a little interview. They're doing a lot of nice stuff in the community. It's a not-for-profit. And so if anybody's looking for a place to put some extra money and to help the community, the school and stuff, that's a great place for it. I was at one of their meetings a while back. They were talking about different things, and I threw out your name and said, hey, he's doing a great job with the band. Where are they at on instruments? I know when I was young, most schools had a full stock of good quality instruments that kids could rent for a year if they couldn't afford one. And so I'm going to throw it out there. Is there anything that you guys need?
Absolutely. We do need musical instruments. We got lots of music. I'm still figuring that out, but I'm going to be ordering some more, by the way. But we do need instruments, and we do have some good instruments, but they're getting old and they're starting to need some maintenance, a lot of maintenance. I actually had one boy using my personal trumpet because we didn't have enough working trumpets that would go around. Saxophone seemed to break down all the time. I'll talk to your daughter about that one. But my nephew's tenor sax is being used by one of the girls at the junior high because we just don't have enough working instruments. I've got, and I think I can fix this, but just kind of give an example of what we got. I've got 5 clarinets that have everything but a mouthpiece. Now, why you don't have a clarinet mouthpiece in the case with the rest of the clarinet, I don't know. And I can't find them in drawers or anything. I can't find the armatures that go on them or anything. So, I think the guy at Enid Band Instrument I work with can get me the mouthpieces for those. But yeah, I mean, we need a couple saxes. We need a couple trumpets. I need a baritone that doesn't leak air like a sieve. I've got one of my big tubas fixed. I'm going to get my little tuba fixed. I think I can get it fixed. But yeah, some money into an account that we could use to, and I won't go crazy. I'm not going to go out and buy 3 bassoons.
Sure.
Sure. And I priced a French horn the other day. A really nice Yamaha was like $14,000.
Whoa.
Yeah, they're not cheap. And that's nothing that we would get. We would not spend money on something like that. But yeah, if we could replace with some good used instruments or some little nicer instruments or have the money to send them off and get totally refurbished would be good. And so, yeah, if somebody wants to contribute money to the Legacy Foundation, that would be great. And if they could earmark it towards the South Barber music department, it'd be wonderful. And it won't be misused. I mean, it would be used for the kids, and that's why we use it.
You bet. Well, what I'll do, I want to say before we wrap it up, thank you to everybody that follows this. There are a lot of people that grew up here that's, moved away, and some of them don't have a reason to come back, but they've subscribed to this, and they'll message me after watching an episode and let me know this or that. Everything's always been positive. So I'm going to throw this out there to everybody that's listening, whether you're a South Barber alumni or not. I'll put a link to how you can find South Barber Legacy, because that is a not-for-profit. It's a 501c3. And if you want to make a contribution, help Mr. Rockett out to get some better instruments, earmark that. They can make sure that happens, because I said, not saying it because you're sitting here.
No.
What a breath of fresh air it's been to have that band playing again.
Thank you.
And I guess I think they sound great. I don't know what your thoughts are as a teacher, but
I
it's like when you ain't heard nothing for a while, you're like, man, that is
No, I
good.
think they sound good. Mr. Neal was down listening to the junior high band the other day, and he was really impressed with just the junior high band.
Yeah.
We're doing the same music in the junior high that the pep band's doing, and I don't have Chuck and Vern and Doris and Gail and
Yeah.
Abby, and Tamara, um, another one of my trumpets. But yeah, I mean, we've got some talented young musicians and vocalists that we just need to push them.
Yeah.
I saw something. This was tonight. I saw this. There are 70% more kids that get scholarships in music than in athletics.
Oh, I don't doubt that.
And I don't either. I mean, it makes perfect sense. But, you want to go to college and you can sing, I mean, that's there you go. You play a trumpet, play clarinet, you play sax, get some money.
Yep.
And you don't have to be a vocal major. I mean, I wasn't a vocal major. But you can just contribute and be part of the musical programs, and that's important.
That's a great point. I know a gal, she was a little older than me, lived up by St. John, that she wasn't a music major and went to K-State and played trombone in the K-State marching band and got to see the turnaround up there. I mean, when she was there, they were going to bowl games.
Yeah.
It was like, whoa,
I know a kid that went to Oklahoma State, decided to play in the marching band just so he could travel.
Yep.
And go to the away games and go to the bowl games. I mean, there's opportunities there.
And I don't, I'm so disconnected with where it's at now versus years ago, but you had so many kids in vocal and band that you went to different contests. I remember I thought it was like the Tri-State that was down at Enid. It was a huge contest. And I always said, you never discount that, even if it's a vocal solo, or if you're in an ensemble, or an instrumental solo or an ensemble or whatever, that being able to stand up and play or sing in front of a different environment, in front of judges that are evaluating you, builds so much character.
I agree.
You learn, and I'm not discounting. I love high school sports. It takes some guts to step out on the field, right? I mean, you're going to get hit or something's going to happen, but it's a different feeling when you walk into a room to sing a solo in front of people you don't know. That's something that carries you the rest of your life, especially like with you being an attorney. I guarantee it, to stand up in a courtroom and be able to speak and carry yourself professionally. Some of that probably started from back singing, playing, and all of that.
It did. I mean, you never get used to it. You're always nervous. Everybody's, well, how can you do that? And I'm like, you just put your head down and do it, you know, unlike playing football or something like that. Yeah, you're nervous, but you're going to do what you do. I have my little kids, my kindergartners, my first graders, my second graders, stand up in front of the class and sing individually.
Yeah.
And I don't call it a test or anything like that. And sometimes I let them pick the song. A lot of them pick Home on the Range, which is great. That's a song we did at the concert, and just to get them in front of that class.
So Nacy
Gugelmeyer, Sutter. Yep.
The few years she was here, that's one of the things she did. And every now and again, she'd take a little group of those kids down to the donut shop, and you got Ron Moltz in there drinking coffee, and Nick Hitchcock and different people. And those little kids would line up and they would sing Home on the Range.
I'll talk to Kim. Maybe we can get down there to the donut shop and do some of that again. I took the high school to the nursing home. Speaking of contest, we do have the league music contest coming up on the 9th, and we're hosting.
Awesome.
And a first-year teacher is not supposed to host. I have no idea what I'm doing. The last contest I was at was in 1982. I heard we were hosting for the Heart of the Plains League. We were going to have a snack bar for the kids to eat at. We're going to have a hospitality room. If anybody wants to contribute, particularly hamburger and hot dogs to the snacks, that would be great for the kids. So the yearbook's running it, so they can make a little money for the yearbook. And then hospitality, we're just going to have people bring in, nachos or, hot dogs or sloppy joes or something like that. So if anybody wants to do that, get in touch with me or call up to the high school and talk to the office up there, because we'll take donations of food and help because we need it. because I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm getting pianos tuned on the 5th, and I didn't even know I had to do that yet.
So would it be okay? I'll put like your email address for
Absolutely.
the school.
Oh,
I'll put
absolutely.
them in the podcast notes. So it doesn't matter if you're watching this on YouTube, Spotify, or listening on Apple. His email will be there. We'll put a little link for South Barber Legacy, and hopefully get some things going. I just want to tell you thanks again for taking time to sit down and
Absolutely. I
visit.
had no idea what I was getting into, but I've had a good time. I've had a really good time.
I told you from the beginning, there are no notes or anything. If something pops, if I ask you a question, it probably just popped in my head.
Well, you brought back some memories tonight.
Well,
I mean,
that was a great walk down memory lane.
It was fun.
You know, and I hope, I hope the kids here today look at Kiowa and the South Barber area the way that we were thinking about it just then, that it means something to them, you know.
One last thing, just to compliment my age. When I came back and interviewed, I went up and talked to Mr. Neal. I'd never met Mr. Neal before, and I walk in, and all the plaques are up there on the wall, and I'm looking for my Allstate plaque, and it's not there. And I said, well, where's my Allstate plaque? And he goes, oh, it's in the museum. Yeah. So I'm down there with Carrie Nation.
Oh, boy. That'll humble you in a hurry.
It really humbled me big time.
That's awesome. Down at the museum.
Yep. Well, I still got to go see it.
Well, I don't think we can top that. So we're going to, like I said, thanks again for stopping by and visiting.
Thanks for asking.
You bet. And thank you to everybody that continues to click on YouTube, Spotify, or Apple to listen to this. What we've wanted to do with this podcast is try to keep people connected to this area, share some positive stories about this area. And just like you, what a great story of a career in law, and then coming back and contributing to your community, and just the excellent work you've done. Thank you so much.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much. Thanks.